I look good, guys. I look good. Quiet on the set, please.
There it is.
Thank you, quiet on the set. No, I'm a theater major saying that.
What was your name again?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah.
And Kelly is from?
Denver, Colorado.
Colorado.
So what's your name?
My name's Janae Wright.
Janae, I'm Dallas. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay.
Yes.
Hot Georgia.
Right. It's definitely hot.
Okay.
I was originally born in St. Thomas, Jamaica. My mother was born here in Alabama, but my father was actually born in St. Thomas.
Okay.
Yes. But they both met in college. College sweethearts.
Yeah, same as my parents. They met at Tuskegee.
Really?
Not too far.
Tuskegee, yeah. TU, the shed.
Yeah.
So hot up under there. Yeah.
Fun question. Your outfit, I love it. But like, explain it to me. What inspired it? Explain your fashion to me.
Well, somehow or another we all came from Miss Vane. Somehow or another we all came from the motherland. But this outfit was actually a gift for me for my crowning ceremony for Mr. Future Alumni.
Okay.
But it's called an Agbada. But there's a third piece that goes over this. I didn't wear it today because not to say it would have been too much, but for me it's a little bit formal.
Okay.
But yeah, this was my crowning ceremony outfit. This is what I got anointed in, and I got crowned in. But my coronation robe is actually in my room.
Okay.
But yeah. But this is, I want to say, not Yoruba, but I think it's Igbo. Igbo with the stitching and the embroidery and everything. And the third piece has much more embroidery on it.
Sure.
All the way down. But it's, it's a little bit much. It's
Yeah,
all
I
white.
love it. What's been the experience? I know you said Colorado's a lot different than probably Alabama.
Yeah.
What's been the experience?
I chose Montgomery, Alabama because it was the birthplace of civil rights. In Colorado, we don't have a big black family, or we don't really have a big black community. So I figured coming down here, I'd find it. And I did find it. But I also saw that like the history that was here was kind of not progressing. It was like the civil rights movement happened and then it just stopped. So all you see is like the remnants of what was, but nobody's carrying that to make this what it can be, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it makes sense for sure. Cool. And so what are you kind of doing with that thought now? Is that something that you're passionate about, like seeing change in Alabama, or like what?
It is. I'd like to see a better strategy with ASU specifically. I'd like to see more accountability with students and faculty, because we do know that there's some things that aren't right that still go on. But God can't bless disorder, so there has to be order for something to work right. And I think a lot of the problems that we have here financially, just with the students and housing and everything, it all goes back to that original thing of order. I don't think that things were done in a right way. And so that's kind of why we're at the place where we're at now.
Going throughout high school, I went to like a mixed high school, like it had all different, ethnicities, black backgrounds, races, and everything. So my mom actually attended HBCU. She went to Norfolk State University. And so with her experience and how much she raved about it, it always drew me to want to go to an HBCU. So I applied to 6 different colleges, and this specific one offered me a academic scholarship.
Wow. Awesome.
So I get to go here for free. Thank you.
What? Free? That's amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations. So what are you studying right now?
I'm studying communications with a focus in radio and television.
Okay. And how long have you been here?
I'm a sophomore now.
Wow. So you have some big dreams, sounds like.
I do. I plan on hopefully interning at CNN over the summer.
Awesome.
And then after that, we have a radio station on campus, but we also have a new station. I think it's, I don't want to quote it wrong, but I know it's like WSB 12 or something like that, something or other. But I would like to, eventually get an internship there and possibly turn that into a job, because I've always wanted to be a news anchor.
Yeah,
so.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So what has your experience been like on this campus?
Well, my experience has definitely been unique on this campus. There are a lot of things that Alabama State does that not a lot of other schools do. For example, we have like a family-oriented college. They say opportunities here, which is legit. You may not find your opportunity on campus, but definitely you get exposed to different people who can open you up to new experiences. When I first visited my sophomore year of high school, it was already it already had this family appeal. Like I felt home, even though I was 2 hours away. And so I just knew this is exactly where I wanted to be. And every other college I had visited, I didn't get that same home feel. So I definitely think that's what's here at Alabama State versus other universities.
Yeah, very family focused.
Right.
Wow.
I honestly feel like the HBCU experience is important because both of my parents are both HBCU graduates. They both went to Elizabeth City State University in North Carolina, and the experience that I got being raised in a household where I had both of my parents and they're both college educated was very personable to me. I was sheltered a bit, which is okay because I learned a lot in my sheltering, but me going to community college, which was predominantly white as well, I learned a lot. I learned how to, with there at PWIs, everything is kind of close-knit, almost family-like, and when they have opportunities, they give everybody a chance to get that opportunity. Coming to a HBCU, nothing is given to you. My experience coming here has been something tremendous. Even though when I first transferred here, I didn't get all of my credits, but it is what I went through and the adversities that I faced and the people who I met what made my graduating and my matriculating so much worthwhile. I was able to, network with an organization called the Future Alumni Movement, and through that, I was able to help a lot of other students. And because of that, because everything isn't given to you, you have to actually go out there and fight and work for the things that you need. That way, when you get into the real world, or they technically say real world, even though we're living in the real world now, you are able to do things for yourself. And I feel like that's what the HBCU experience has taught me. Things that I have to fight for here by being in school, I actually don't really have to fight for those things out. Or the adversities that I'm facing here, I have been through them already. That way, when I get that corporate position at that job, I don't have to fight as hard. I can work smart.
But yeah, I still have hope, you know? Yeah. But this experience has been good. It's been up and down, bittersweet, but I'm glad that I had it because ASU did teach me grit. That's one thing that the students have is grit.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Do you feel like some of the issues that you talked about are completely like an internal problem, or do you think there's something that you can challenge the rest of America? Because I feel like HBCUs are important,
Yeah.
And not just kind of like for HBCU's sake, but like in the entire context and storyline. So you think there's ways that the rest of America can get behind what's happening at ASU and all these other schools, HBCUs?
I think that if they saw unity amongst all HBCUs, people would understand more why they're important and would want to sponsor and help HBCUs. But because there is a bit of dissension between the HBCUs, it's kind of not there. And also another thing, I know that black sororities and fraternities are kind of like the glue that hold HBCUs together. So if their processes or if their protocols aren't in order, then parents won't want to send their kids to HBCUs.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that it's both within the students and then also within the structure here, but then also within the state, because we're owned by the state,
right? So
that limits the amount of funding we can get, and it limits like where we can go, believe it or not.
Yeah. Is that a goal for you to teach higher education?
Yes, pretty much. And I say that because me coming to an HBCU, or me just not coming to an HBCU, but me coming off to higher education, HBCUs have a lack of everything. We don't have the money, we don't have the resources, we don't have a lot of teachers. So I didn't get to learn a lot of things that I wanted to learn in my department, which is the College of Visual and Performing Arts. Even though we go perform with other universities, we come out on top and win, but we have a lack of resources. Just imagine what we could accomplish with the resources that we have.
For sure.
But we have to make do with the resources that we don't have. So we're kind of held back in a way. But because of us being so held back, when we do go out in the real world, we're able to strive because we know how to make do with what we don't have. So I really appreciate that, not being able to have all of those resources, but at the same time, I wish we had those teachers and those extra professors who can come in and teach us things.
I know you talked a lot about not having all of the resources available, still loving your experience here.
Right.
What would even be a challenge you would give to people who
come to an HBCU?
Or who have never attended HBCU and I don't even live in an area where there's a ton of HBCUs.
Wow. Okay.
Or like just the wider audience of America that's kind of like that generally go to other schools will be a challenge to get almost involved or get behind
or some
the
advice
vision because they're important, right?
Right.
HBCUs.
I want to say a challenge. Some things are a challenge, but I can give some advice. If you've never been to a HBCU, or if you don't live close to one and you happen to relocate for job purposes, or even if there's one 2 hours away or hour away, I think it's important to visit so you can become a little bit more diverse and get to know other people, not say another culture, because culturally speaking, we are all made up of different cultures, but America in itself is a cultural aspect itself. But my advice would be to go to a HBCU. If you go to a PWI in your undergraduate year, see if you can find an HBCU that has that program that you can continue to matriculate and get your master's from or your doctorate from, because that's what I plan to do after I leave here. I'm getting my undergrad in an HBCU, so I'm going to leave an HBCU and go to a PWI. Excuse me, so that I can be a lot more diverse, and not only not to make myself look good, but to make me a little bit more marketable, because these days we look at diversity is really winning, and in today's time we like people who are culturally diverse. So I've learned a little bit about these people and their culture, so I get to merge that with the American aspect or the African American aspect and spark change and influence another being, which is a child or someone younger than me who can possibly grow up and maybe follow in my footsteps. But not only just for them to follow in my footsteps, but for them to go out and make a difference in the world. That's the goal, is to get to know more people so that you will be able to make the difference in the world so you can create change.
I know that we have a direct relationship, so whenever I ask him for confirmation, he gives it to me. I know how he speaks to me, and I know he speaks to everybody in their own language. And so for me, that language is art. So and God is a creative, so it makes sense.
Oh, it's true. What kind of art are you involved in?
Well, I want to do film, but I do lighting and sound design for all the theater shows. And I used to be a part of the dance company here. So that's all that I do, and I write as well, stories and plays. And all that.
Film is like in producing films?
Yeah, that's what I want to get into after I graduate.
Racism, I feel like it's always been a factor, but I feel like people, since they're starting to be more of a blend of cultures and blend of races, with people doing interracial dating and marriages and having kids and of mixed origins like myself, it's like people are becoming more, what's the word I'm looking for? People are becoming more acceptable of races, but there's always a factor of racism, and that's something that we can't avoid. Like, even me being where I'm from in Atlanta, I didn't experience much racism, but I still had that experience. And
in what way? In what way?
For example, whenever I would go shopping, certain store, clerks and stuff would follow me around, ask me if I need anything, and it's like they wouldn't do that for other people. And it's I know I was being targeted because of my skin color, and it's like hard to say, and it's hard to be like, that's the reason, but it is, and it's you got to come to terms with it. But the way I've dealt with it was always professional, because there's no reason to lash out to ignorance, because if people if people choose to be ignorant, there's no way you're going to change it unless they want to make the change themselves. So treating people the same doesn't necessarily mean you're treating them, or treating people equally doesn't mean you're treating them the same. So with that being said, it's like, once people learn to accept people for who they are and not just judge them like the surface of a book, then I feel like we can all come together. And it's hard now because of certain leaderships that we have in this country and what it symbolizes, because people then think it's okay for them to act a certain way because of one person who is having that power. And I feel like going through this term, once it ends, people are going to realize, hey, this may not have been the best thing for our country. And they'll want change. Because people have to see the worst in order to make change. And I feel like since we haven't experienced, at least us millennials haven't experienced the worst, because a lot of millennials like to be like, oh, we're so young, we're so disconnected from slavery, and that happened so long ago that it's not relevant. But they don't realize that it is. And not necessarily the slavery aspect, but what the meaning was behind it. Like, the oppression of a certain type of people because of their color. They don't realize that is still a factor, and it is passed down from generation to generation. So when we as a people decide to stop passing it down, I feel like that's when everyone will come together. Our nation's only going to be stronger if we're all one, but if we all continue to be separate, you know, we'll crumble from within. And it doesn't take, you know, terrorists or other nations to tear the United States down if we're already broken. So
what the church as a whole, church body, what challenge would you give to them in general? Like, I'm sure you think about these things.
I do actually. So I would challenge the body really to be more bold. Like Ezekiel was bold. You know, he went out. Ezekiel. He went out. He did prophetic acts, which can be seen kind of like theater. And each of them was related to some type of prophetic message that he had to give the world. And I think that this is kind of like that. You know what I mean? You're actually stepping out, you're using your gifts, and you're doing it with a purpose behind it, you know? And I think that's awesome. I think that's so awesome.
It's all about the responsibility in that portion, but I feel like sometimes everything is a learned behavior. You know, it depends on what your parents are teaching you, and if your parents aren't teaching you that, how else are you expect to learn that? Children, I feel like, are innocent. They're innocent beings. They don't know right from wrong. You know, they know what they're not supposed to do, but when it comes down to racism and colorism, they don't know those things until their parents tell them about what they feel is not right. But it becomes a responsibility. People want to be black until it's time to be black. People want to be white until it's time to be white. So nobody wants to take the responsibility to join hand in hand and walk freely together. Because if we all link hands and love one another truly and bear each other's burdens, I think the world will be a lot better place, or a much more better place. And I know we say that time and time again, but I think what we fail, the reason why we fail at that is because we try to meet the combined with the masses versus trying to meet with people who are like-minded. Marcus Garvey didn't try to reach the masses. He met with people who was like-minded. Same thing with Dr. Martin Luther King. He didn't start the movement. Somebody else started the movement, and they called on him to help pursue the movement. Same with Malcolm X. A lot of these people did not try to reach the masses. What they tried to do, or what they did, was they started speaking with people who are like-minded, and those people who are like-minded with them met with people who are like-minded like themselves. So everything just matriculated down so that they can get to the masses, and it's going to take a lot more time, but people have to believe and have faith in whoever they believe in, because I know here in America everybody doesn't believe in God, but whoever you believe in, you just have to have faith or put it in the universe and trust what's going on. And if you don't trust that process, then it's not going to work out. But you have to have complete trust in that process.
But it's a hypothetical question. Jesus is alive today. He's going to ASU. He's like 29, 30-year-old grad student, right? Okay. In the midst of everything that's happening in America, what is his lifestyle like? How is he living? What is he doing? What is he saying? Who is he right now?
I would say that he's a teacher. He's a friend. I feel like he's relatable to everyone, no matter their circumstances, even issues as far as like segregation and stuff like that. I feel like he was involved in, like the Samaritan woman. That was technically a situation where they were supposed to be segregated, and he broke that and integrated with this woman and talked to her. You feel me? Like, he was breaking barriers. He was a civil rights leader. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like, he was just a humble guy doing what he was supposed to do, you know, about his father's business, and correcting the wrongs and healing those that were broken and teaching those that needed to be taught, and, you know, not condemning those that didn't know, you know, even in their ignorance. I feel like he still let them know what was going on and did it with love. Yeah.
Specifically within my field, I feel as though the media world, journalism, news recording, and social media needs to be more truthful, because there are a lot of lies being sown in and a lot of opinions being sown into the media realm that it's hard for people to know the truth. Like, sometimes when an event happens, certain media channels will spin it in a way
in their favor,
in their favor, so they get more ratings. And I know journalism and news anchoring is about a business. It's a business at the end of the day, but at the same time, we're like the number one source for people to get their information. So I feel like at least for me, when I get into the field, I'm going to try to be as honest and truthful as possible. And my ethics is that I will always be truthful. And if I'm working at a station that doesn't believe in the same ethical issues that I do, then I'm just going to have to leave.
Yeah.
You know, because there's no reason in staying in a company that doesn't share my same values, because I don't want to then be tainted.
Wow, that's amazing.
From your perspective, what does that look like practically in today's age? How do we, as a group, challenge for our team, for yourself, for America? Like, what does it look like to bear someone's burdens?
Cool. So I guess dealing specifically with the issue of race and racism, bearing the burden for me would look like if those white churches, I don't like to use the word, but those predominantly white churches, or those churches that got funding from slave owners and slave ships years ago, I feel like they have to repent for that. And I feel like that is a part of that curse of slavery that is still on us today. You know, I feel like that can only be broken if collectively we repent for our wrongs, and then we heal, or we actually pray for healing for those generations that were affected by it, you know? Because systematic racism is real, but it can only change if we collectively do our part. I feel like the apostolic is needed in that too, because apostles build, you know, they build new things, but nobody's building anything on that issue, you know what I mean, to help, you know? So I feel like first recognizing our parts in it, repenting from it, and then collectively just praying for healing and teaming up with different organizations that can help, you know, those communities that suffered for it, you know?
I know you said collectively it's going to take that. I know there's, every once in a while you see a pastor or someone pop up and they'll like do something early in their service, you know, they'll say something. But then you look at other times, different throughout history, different leaders, people who like push Christianity and the faith forward. It was you see like official documents being like pinned onto doors of like, okay, this is what we're changing, this is what we're saying, this is like where we're going next. Do you feel like it sort of takes that sort of step where we're kind of like, it's not like we're not just saying it on a Sunday, repenting like one-on-one or like in my congregation, but as a group we're changing something together.
Right. Yeah, I think it requires strategy, and that's, I think, the blessing in the apostolic ministry, because they make strategies for stuff like that. And so I feel like strategy is definitely important, and a continued service for it, because even with the civil rights, that took years, you know, so it takes a commitment, a committed, you know, push and movement.
Like I said before, if we can just all come together and just be truthful. A lot of people get on to me for being so truthful, but that's how I grew up. That's the only way I know how to be. The truth is supposed to set you free, but I just feel that if we're a lot more truthful with who we are, it'll be easier for people to get along with us. And if others can go learn about certain cultures, like say if I move into a predominantly white neighborhood that's been that way for hundreds of years, I'm going to do research on this neighborhood to see who established it, who lived here, and then maybe I'll do some more research on that so I can get to know others, versus just, like you said, being so selfish and staying to myself, not trying to get to know people. And that means that's when people are really living in fear, because they don't want to go out to meet new people, because they're afraid that they may not like these people, or these people are, you know, criminals or whatever it may be. But you're right. I really wish that people would stop being so selfish and stop thinking about what they've learned and actually go learn more, or what people have told them, because a lot of learning or knowledge gets passed on by word of mouth. So instead of us, you know, taking those notes down and going back to do our research, that's what we need to do, versus just going by what he says or what she says. Because I know on campus I wear a lot of traditional garments, and they always ask me, am I Muslim? And one day I happened to get upset, and I was like, you know, Muslims aren't the only people that wear this. You know, if you go back and do some research, maybe your ancestors may have dressed like this at one point in time. If you look at people in Dubai, they dress like this. The stitching is different, but everybody has this nice way of dressing. And that's one thing that I admire about the Nigerian culture, is everything that they have, like this I can wear to a wedding, a funeral, a job job interview, whatever it may be. That's what I like about them, because they're so diverse at everything that they do.
Right.
It's so diverse that I can wear it to this place or that place. But
what's been your favorite thing about being here?
Yeah. My favorite thing about being here was seeing black people and black artists collaborate.
Yeah.
And to see us make something so good and beautiful. I've never been able to work with like a full cast of black actors and technicians, but having that experience here since I've been here has really showed me like the power that black entertainers have.
Yeah.
And collaboration itself has when it's done in the right way. So yeah.
My favorite thing about Alabama State is some of the faculty and staff. Actually, every time I think about it, because I graduate next semester in December, I get a little emotional because I'm going to have to leave this place behind because of the love and the joy that I got from these people who are like my mothers or who are like my father or aunts and uncles. It really meant a lot to me, and the joy about that is that I get to keep in contact with these people even after I leave here. Leave here, so I can continue to walk in their legacy because I'm a product of them. Sure. They taught me. They helped me do this, because coming to college isn't just about learning or focusing on your academics. You get to learn other things. You know, with my living here on campus, I've lived on campus for all of my 4 years here, and it's been a wonderful experience. I would not change anything, any class that I failed or any bad thing that has happened, which are very few. I would not change that, because that is what made me who I am today as a student of Alabama State University. You know, and I love my ASU is what we say, my HBCU.
Yeah.
I really do love my ASU, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Would not change it for the world.
I love that.
Well, I think that your group in particular is doing an amazing job of visiting different universities and having this whole couch thing. I love the entire idea. I feel as far as our generation, we need to become more educated as a whole.
Wow.
Now, whether that's you going to college or not, I feel like as a person, you should always seek education. Learn something new every single day, because knowledge is power. And when people lack knowledge and when people are ignorant to certain things, that's when problems arise.
Wow.
For example, it's about to be spring break. And on everybody's minds is, I want to go to Miami. I want to go to Miami. They're so crazy and wild in Miami. But a lot of people don't realize that 6 people have died yesterday because a bridge collapsed in the middle of Miami on cars. And there were 8 cars total. And they're still trying to dig through the debris to find the rest of the bodies. And no one's talking about it. Yeah. And it's like, even though it's a big deal, but even though it's not relevant to Montgomery, Alabama, it's still something that shouldn't be overlooked just because it's not happening to you. And I feel like a lot of people do that. People overlook things just because it's not happening to you personally. Oh, I'm not going to worry about it.
So true.
And we need to have a different mindset.
No, I have that same heart. Like with school shootings and we just it's another one. Okay. Next day we just go on with our day. It's like, what?
It's like, what are we going to do about it? We are the next generation. We are the ones who are going to make the change in the future. We can't just sit back and be like, it's not our problem yet. It is our problem. Because the action that we're going to take in the future starts now.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, you keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to watch you on the news.
Thank you.
Changing the world.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we could have some time.
Of course.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.